Okay, hang on. I just saw on Twitter that Miley Cyrus is now in a cult. These two girls, Lily and Blue, were allegedly healers at the cult school. This is a picture of Miley with these two girls again from one of their healing cult lectures in May.
Recently, fans have been alleging that Miley has joined a cult called the Modern Mystery School.
From the mist of time come ancient methods for modern living.
Welcome to the Mystery School. This organization has existed on this planet for thousands of years. We are now finally offering our services and our teachings to the general public. It's an exciting time. Shambhala is coming. People call us dreamers, but we're not the only one.
Welcome to this broadcast. We are sitting in a spacecraft a few kilometers above Earth.
Now we can cleanse out the aura, we can take down negative barriers and stuff that is in the way of their complete healing. So we had the teachings, we had the healings. One of the formulas that was created by Solomon, King Solomon healing modalities. Solomon also, one of the departments of Solomon to create healing. I'm having fun.
Today I want to talk about a cult again. And this particular cult is so insane, not only because of how it got on my radar, but then when I looked into it, I was like, oh my God, how did I not know about this? They're still operating today, by the way. I found this article and the headline was like, did Miley Cyrus join a cult? And I was like, click, 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 clickety, clack, click. That's when I found out about the Modern Mystery School and why people think that Miley Cyrus joined this school cult, whatever you want to call it. Ex-students of this school, they have come out and they've made some very disturbing allegations about sexual things, financial things, just straight up like mental manipulation, abuse type things. There are many theories about what is going on. Like, is this a cult? Is Miley Cyrus part of it? What are they doing? So I want to do what I usually do on my channel, which is I want to give you guys the facts, then we'll discuss the theories, and then you can decide for yourself. The whole thing begins with a man by the name of Gudni Gudnison. Now, this guy Gudni is such a character. To some people, he is a guru. To other people, he's a musical genius. And to most people, he is a scammer. There is the story that he tells about himself and how he became who he is. And then there's the story that other people tell about him, and they're very different. When Gudni talks about himself, he has like a million different origin stories about himself and how he came to be, and each one is like more fantastical than the other.
Hi, Gudni.
Hello.
How are you?
And then I went to the Congo in Africa. Then I went to Romania. And the way I smuggled myself over the border was with the monks. 14 years ago, I had stage 4 lung cancer. They gave me 1 year to live. That's 14 years ago. And in 1 week, I was clean of, the cancer was gone. I've done all these things and actually don't know how I did it.
First, he likes to tell the dramatic story of his birth, that he was born with a twin, but that the twin died like 30 minutes later.
He passed away 30 minutes after we came to this world. I spent the next 10 years with him on the other side of the veil. So in my whole life, I'm not basically born without a veil. I couldn't see any difference between humans and passed on people.
His veil was lifted and he could always see the other side. Sounds like Chad Daybell, if you know what I mean. And that he was able to see ghosts all the time. His powers were strong and he could even hug ghosts.
I have often gotten a hug from what we call a ghost. If you're psychic enough for that, you can actually hug a ghost.
Gudni says that other people noticed how wise he was as a child, and he was always told that he was meant to be a teacher.
They all called me when I was young. They called me the world teacher. And I guess they were right, because today we teach in 46 countries.
Gudni says that as he grew up, one day he met this man.
And this man comes in and he brings a little business card. It says, come to this address tonight at 7. And I thought he was, weird. And what? No, I'm not gonna. This sounds weird. And then, but something called me because this card was really simple. It was just this little symbol and an address. That's it. And so I went. It was a secret order that had disappeared in 1932, and it's called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And I basically was in the headquarters of this order.
King Solomon in like the biblical scriptures, like his like magic, he claims that he had access to these ancient teachings from these secret schools. It was up to him to make it public.
I was chosen to basically take the mystery school teachings to the public. All the other mystery schools are closed. There are 7 mystery schools, and only ours is open to the public. Now, the reason why the mystery school is out is that the time for the new Shambhala is coming. And that's been prophesied by almost everybody. The new Shambhala, the new Jerusalem, the new world is coming. What that's going to be like, well, I don't say this is how it's going to be. The facts that we do know is that there's going to be peace. There's going to be no health problems. It's going to be a compassionate, loving society like the first Shambhala was.
This is basically the story that he tells. But when you look at the facts, you will find that what actually happened is that he was born in Iceland in the 50s. And in the 70s, when he was in his 20s, he became really obsessed with these twins in Iceland. They were known for martial arts and dancing, and they created their own type of martial arts called Kimisawa, which was a combination of the two, and they would go around teaching this martial arts that they invented. And Gudni was one of their students. He would follow them around and learn from them. And they were twins, just like the story he told about how he was born with twins. And then from there, they end up getting this role in a movie that was really popular in Iceland.
A film about love, hate, and revenge from the Viking era.
They end up hooking Gudni up with a role in this movie. And that's when Gudni sort of gets a taste of fame, the public eye, and he decides to basically break from these twins that he was following and essentially compete with them. And he started his own teaching of the martial arts that they invented. And they said that he did not ask permission. He wasn't even on the level to be a teacher. They said he wasn't even one of the good ones that were following them, but that he was professional and really good at like basically bullshitting. They said he could make people believe in whatever he said. They also criticized him for lying because they invented this like in the 70s. But when Gudni was marketing the martial arts they invented, he was like, this is 1,600-year-old ancient art. The twins end up speaking out publicly against him and telling him to stop. And so he says, okay, fine, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to start my own bodyguard school. And this would be a common theme with him. He claims that he was a bodyguard for the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama came to my center when I ran the Kabbalah Center in Sweden. And we had a private conversation. I was arguing with the Dalai Lama. Then we had a beautiful conversation for about 45 minutes.
Bodyguard school ends up being kind of a flop. And that's when Gudni decides, okay, I'm not going to do their martial arts that they invented. I'm going to invent my own kind of martial arts, which he does. Except he called his Fujika Do, which is kind of like Taekwondo, but with like crystals and movements of like energy. But then he ends up getting in trouble because he has kids that are doing these sort of fights, matches with each other, but they're not using the protective gear that they're supposed to. The Icelandic judo and martial arts authorities, they end up shutting him down. And so that's when he leaves Iceland and he moves to the States. When he moves to the States, that's when he starts his cult school. Gudni ends up going to Utah. He ends up going to Utah, and that's where he sort of cultivates this image that is not based in facts. He says that he is a doctor of metaphysics. He says that he has won all these awards for, what did he win an award for? Oh, Poet of the Year. He said he was Poet of the Year, and he's still telling people that he was the Dalai Lama's bodyguard. He ends up opening another bodyguard school. And while he's doing that, he meets someone. a woman by the name of Laurie Sechrist, and he would end up marrying her, and they would have this foundation together. She was into, energy and spirituality. She was a psychic, and so they were kind of aligned with the whole spiritual thing, and so they opened this foundation called the Triolite Foundation, which is meant to like enlighten people and bring them joy and spirituality, and it was basically like selling potions, meant to like open up the veil and sort of things like that, crystals and whatnot. Now it is 1998, and this is when Gudni is telling his new and improved origin story. One day, something huge happened with him and his wife Laurie. And what was that happened? They were visited by aliens, and let me tell you the story. They were in Idaho. They were by a lake, and then all of a sudden, this alien spaceship comes down on the lake. They said it was a, quote, plasma ship, and there were aliens in it that were known as the Nathors. And these Nathors were representing the Galactic Federation. If you've watched my cult video on Mother God, you will know that she had a direct line to the Galactic Federation herself. Remember, ding! Gudni and Laurie say that they hung out with the Nathors for 3 weeks, and during those 3 weeks, the Nathors taught them secret alien knowledge and technology that was far beyond anything that the Earthlings knew, even more knowledge than he had learned from the King Solomon lineage. What was this technology? I'm going to tell you. So, according to Gudni, humans have 24 strands of DNA. 12 strands are physical and the other 12 are spiritual. Now, he already knew how to, quote, activate 22 of the 24 strands of DNA from his knowledge with the King Solomon ancient hermetic arts. But the Nathor aliens taught him how to activate the last 2 strands of DNA. And this was huge. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, oh my God, how do we activate our DNA? Well, there's a wand, a brown wooden base with a little crystal at the tip.
It's basically a crystal attached to a wood thing.
Yes, I can see it. It's like a magician.
Right. Yeah, it's like a Harry Potter style,
Yeah.
And you go like this, and then your DNA is activated.
Bringing down the upper triad of the tree of life. And that comes down and makes you a holy person. And that changes your DNA completely.
And of course, it's going to cost you. According to Gudni and Laurie, the Nathor aliens told them you have to teach this to 20% of the Earth's population by 2005 or else. After this alien encounter, the Nathors flew away, and Gudni and Laurie were like, oh my gosh, we know what we have to do. We have to start a school. Now, the school was called the Rocky Mountain Mystery School at first. Gudni, he actually wanted to call it a university, but legally he couldn't because there was some issue with accreditation.
I'm not sure we can use that word. We're still dealing with the legal issues of that. What?
Copyright.
Yeah, well, university, you have to have a certain... Anyway, the lawyers are dealing with it.
Gudni and Laurie, they're like doing the DNA activations. They have a few students, and then 2005 comes around and they haven't gotten 20% of the population to activate their DNA. And furthermore, there are some indiscretions that are going on with Gudni and other female students, which we'll get into more in detail. But what results of this is a split between Laurie and Gudni. They break up, they divorce. When Laurie and Gudni broke up, the students that they had broke up too. Like some decided to go with Laurie and some decided to go with Gudni because there were allegations of sexual misconduct against Gudni. And so Gudni goes on this rant. Okay, I found this article that talks about a post he made after the split where he's basically saying that his students have abandoned him. He says, quote, "This is the same story as in Star Wars with Anakin Skywalker, who turned to become Darth Vader, thinking that he was doing the right thing. He was on a mission of light until it was too late. Remember, I told you all that you would wander in darkness, you would be misguided, and that I would lie to you to get you off the path. Instead of just doing your job and fulfilling your contract, you chose negativity and judgment. Predictable, to say the least, my dear humans. Let's for a moment imagine that I am the Wizard of Oz. He, as you know, was a fake. He had no true powers. But he did create magic because the people believed in him. Perhaps the message is more important than the messenger. If these kinds of attacks start, just remember to stay focused on your path and do not listen to gossip and evil talk, as this is the way that evil works. He also said that there are many, many people who are so important to history, who have contributed so much to the spiritual knowledge that we have, that have also been accused of sexual misconduct. So it's like almost a badge of honor at this point. Now, Lori cannot talk about what happened because, as the terms of the divorce, she is not allowed to say anything negative about Gudni, their marriage, their business. So from her, we don't know what happened, but other people have spoken out and it's not good. And that was the quote sexual teachings that they had, the Tantra.
The gods gave us the teachings of what's called Tantra in order to utilize the body in the best possible way.
There were more females than males in the school. I think it was like 2 to 1. The leadership were all men, and the women felt like they were basically taken advantage of by the male teachers. So they all kind of talked about the same, what they call the grooming method that he would use. And it always started first with him always getting massages, like all the time. They were constantly massaging him to keep his energy flowing, that if he wasn't getting a massage, his energy would be blocked. It would begin with him having a female student massage him to circulate his energy, and then he would ask them to do certain things, perform certain things on him, like maybe oral or whatnot, because his energy was blocked and he needed it to flow. So the evil spirits, he could fight them. And then he would tell them afterwards, like, you just saved the souls of people right now. Like, we helped them by you giving me head. Students said that it wasn't even just like the teachers pressuring them to sleep with them, but the teachers would also pressure female students to sleep with other male students to heal them, right? And this was part of the grooming. Like, it would start out like that, where they would say, oh, this person is, struggling, and you should do this to heal them. And so when they would see that this person was willing to do that with another student at their instruction, the next thing they would do is say, wow, you're so powerful. Look, you healed this student. If we combine our sexual energies, because I'm the teacher and you're like a really powerful student, we could really, really save the world. And then he sort of escalated it and created this group known as the Shadow Team. And this was like the elite group of sex magic evil fighters, and they would go to the temple that they had, and they would perform these rituals that were essentially orgies. And he would claim after they would do that that they again saved the world from a crisis, or that people who died from these huge tragedies, their souls were saved because they had an orgy. There were all these tragedies that would happen, like school shootings and natural disasters, and he would always say that these were evil spirits, and that them basically having sex would save the world from these events. And then that's when Gudni started introducing this exclusive secret group that would perform sex magic rituals. And these rituals, he said, were the most powerful because they could actually fight evil.
King Solomon himself, he was doing much sex. He loved women. He was doing it in order to take the energy from the sex.
Yes. We have a slightly different version of that, actually.
And that was something that was common, where he was always talking about evil and demons, and that it was their job to fight the demons, and that was the most powerful thing a woman could do, was engage in this sex magic and help fight evil and save lives. And a lot of former students came out and said that they felt pressure to engage in this magic, or else people would die if they didn't do it. Some of the students bought into it, and then other students felt like, oh, this is really gross. They would feel really nasty afterwards. A lot of students who participated in these rituals would end up leaving after it messed with their head, and they were really upset about it. And they would speak out about this. And that's when he started implementing the NDAs, where they could not talk about the school. And Gudni, he decides to basically move to Japan, where he starts a branch of his school.
But I thought I would dance for you a little bit.
ちょっとね、踊りでも見せようかなと思ったんですが、
Belly dancing.
ね、ベリーダンシング。
So, the key to a better world on the planet is here in Japan.
And now his school is known as the Modern Mystery School. When Gudni was in Japan, he met Aiko, who is a student there, and he ends up marrying her. She's much younger than him, and she is his wife, his student, his translator, everything. Around this time is when someone by the name of Dave Lanyon comes into the picture. Now, Dave Lanyon started as a student, but he quickly rose up the ranks and is now one of the leaders of this group cult. He also had a martial arts background, and he claimed to have mob connections, and he said that he was member of the secret society known as the Knights Templar. Dave sort of now takes a more leadership role and is more in the public eye, whereas Gudni kind of falls back a little bit and is more in the background. And while Dave is promoting the school and trying to get more recruits to the school, he comes up with this motto that he talks about a lot, which is, quote, know thyself. Now, I need you to remember that because later when we talk about Miley Cyrus and her involvement, that's a big part of what people talk about. The Modern Mystery School continues to spread around the world. They refer to themselves as the Harvard of Metaphysics, and they claim that they have really important people that were part of their alumni, including William Shakespeare, Plato, Winston Churchill, Leonardo da Vinci. Their curriculum was interesting. They would have to do like martial arts with crystals, like the Fujikado that he invented. And then they also had to watch movies like for homeworks, like The Matrix and Mary Poppins. For this quality education, students would pay thousands and thousands of dollars. The reason why they were doing this is because they're trying to get to the level where they have the DNA activation, which is that highest level where they learn that sort of secret alien technology. The model of this group, school, cult, whatever, is literally a pyramid scheme. It's literally a pyramid scheme because it functions on new recruits all the time. The people who are already there need to bring in more people. The more people they bring, the more money they have. Without new members who are paying lots of money, the whole thing falls apart, which is why it's a pyramid scheme. And the worst part about it is you're promised to make all this money, have all this abundance and power, but it never happens. The students would always end up in debt, always, because the higher up they rose, the more they had to pay. And he would tell them, like, it's not about the material, like money is just energy. You've got to take out loans if you need to. Stop thinking about the physical. Don't have a scarcity mindset. The more you spend, the more you'll make. But the gag is he was super into the physical and material. He drove a Maserati. He would buy crazy things online that were completely unnecessary for a lot of money. And whenever the students would start to sort of like hesitate, he would tell them that these are mandatory, or the certifications that they already got, they would need to pay to maintain them. So not only would he tell them they won't be able to rise up the ranks, but they could lose all the stuff they spent so much money to get to already. So they were constantly feeling like it was mandatory to spend this money, or else all this time, money, and energy would be for nothing. A lot of students claim that they would get humiliated, berated, belittled, yelled at, would have to do these crazy humiliation rituals and things if they did not bring in enough new students. They were yelled at for hours until they were crying, or they would have to sit there and like do hand movements for pentagrams for hours, like to get their energy correct so that they can bring in more students. And then there was this ritual. They basically get buried alive. So what happens is this. They go to Japan, they go to the forest in Japan, and for 3 days and 3 nights, they cannot sleep and they cannot eat. They only get like a bottle of water, and they have to sit in the forest, starving, tired, and just meditate. And then they go up to this mountain and they're like fully exhausted. After those 3 days and nights, they're like, some of them are hallucinating, they're delirious. They come down and they go to this area where there are graves already dug out for each of them. And they go into these graves and they put a plastic sheet over them. And then they get dirt piled on top of them until the weight is super heavy. Like they're basically buried alive. And then after a certain amount of time, which some of them are so delirious, they don't even know how long it was. Some of them passed out, and they pull the plastic off of them, and then they like gasp for air, and they come out and they're like, you're reborn. You are now a third step ritual master, and your DNA has been activated with this crystal. As if that wasn't bad enough, after they complete this and they feel like, okay, finally, like we've now gotten to this level, they then are asked to pay $80,000 to take the ultimate course that is taught by Gudni himself. And it says here that it is the highest training of them all, the top of the pyramid of training, even though there is always more to learn, and that it is called School of the Mage. Like they're basically spending money to get tortured, and the reward for that is an opportunity to spend even more money and probably get tortured even more. I'm sure you're wondering, why the hell do people stay? Well, it's that thing of like, what do they call it when you're in too deep and it's like you'd rather stick it out than leave because you feel like you've already put so much into it. That's how a lot of these students felt with this financial investment that they were putting in. And so they would kind of just sink deeper and deeper. This is when Gudni ramps things up. He starts telling the students that the world is ending, and he's telling them it's coming in a few months. He says, May 5th, 2012, something huge is going to happen. He's kind of vague about it, but it's essentially like they have to fight the biggest battle of their lives. Everything they've been training for, it's all coming up to this moment. He starts sending the students emails that are becoming more and more frantic. Like this email says, the world needs us now more than ever before. There will always be many excuses not to train and not to serve. But if we don't succeed on May 5th, 2012, every soul will be lost to heaven. And then a few months later, he says, we are getting close to the end of days, the Armageddon, or the end of the world as we know it. Students were asking him, like, what exactly is going to happen on May 5th, 2012? And he was like, I can't give you specifics, and nothing might happen because we've already been working so hard that we might have already like stopped this. But what we need to do is try to stop it. And it's going to require a lot of work, courses they have to take that costs thousands of dollars, supplies they have to buy crystals, candles, all of that costs hundreds of dollars. And of course, they got to do the orgies. Now it's getting real close to doomsday. And he tells all the students that they have to take a mandatory course, no matter what level they are. And it's $1,000 for each student. Dave Lanyon emails the students who are hesitant about this course, and he says, to be 100% clear, missing this training means you will not be on any May 5th team, and you will not be a serving ritual master. Again, another email as May 5th is getting closer. This one from Gudni. The effects of our temples are felt all over in so many ways. Crime going down, bad guys falling down dead, and people rising up against injustice. If we don't do our work, people die. All caps. It is now 2 weeks before the end of the world. And Gudni tells the students, we are going to do sleep deprivation leading up to this, because what's going to happen is we're going to perform a ritual for 30 hours, and this is what's going to save the world. Now it's the big day, May 5th, 2012. The big main temple is in Japan, and that had like most of the students, but there were other schools and temples all around the world, and they were all participating in this ritual too. And what exactly was the ritual? Basically, they were just sitting down and they were doing hand movements, a lot of pentagrams and things like this that were essentially creating a barrier for the evil spirits from entering earth and killing people. And they had to do it constantly. They could never stop. And some of them had to take shifts, because if you even stop doing this for a second, an evil spirit could come through. And so it was nonstop like this. They wake up the next morning and Gudni's like, we did it. We did it. Look, nothing happened, which means we saved the world. When all this was said and done, and Gudni had made tons of money, he decided he's over it. He's like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to leave this to Dave and the other leader, and I am going to go with my wife and become a DJ. A few years ago, there was a journalist from Vice News, from the UK Vice News, and this journalist was hearing a lot of really bad things about this cult from ex-students. And so he reaches out to Gudni and he asks him for an interview. And Gudni tells him, I'll give you an interview, but I want to have like 100% control of the final edit, like what stays in, what gets edited out. Like I need complete control. And the journalist is like, I can't do that. And so it kind of doesn't go anywhere. The journalist continues doing his research for the article and gets a lot of like really disturbing allegations. So before he publishes the article, he reaches out to Gudni one last time, like, hey, these are the allegations that I found. What do you have to say to that? That's when Gudni's attorney sends a letter basically saying, these are lies, this is defamation, it has caused my client Gudni like so much emotional damage, and it's all lies. The article gets published. This is in 2021. I want to talk about some of the theories. How do we get to the point where people are saying Miley Cyrus joined the cult? I'm going to tell you. The Miley Cyrus connection started on social media. It started with a tweet where someone basically had a picture of Miley with two people that were known to be from this cult. And they were like, is Miley Cyrus in this cult? And then there was another picture that had Miley with the same people and other people. They were sitting down like as if they were attending a seminar of some sort. And in the background was the phrase, know thyself. Remember, I told you that's the phrase, that Dave Lanyon uses a lot. And so it just added fuel to the fire that Miley Cyrus was somehow involved with the modern mystery school. When people looked into the modern mystery school, they would stumble upon this article and what people said, and they were like, oh my God, it's a cult. And why is Miley associated with them? Then it started getting even more traction when people on TikTok were talking about it.
I just saw on Twitter that Miley Cyrus is now in a cult. These two girls, Lily and Blue, were allegedly healers at the cult school.
Fans are concerned because Miley is not touring. She just released a song and she's not doing the things that she would usually do. She posted this long Instagram post where she talks about how touring is not fulfilling her anymore. And they feel like she's sort of getting sucked into the cult and is disconnecting and isolating from her work, her friends, her family, her fans, everything. A big part of this speculation was that she hadn't posted on social media. And so then she did post on social media, and then people were like, wait, this doesn't sound like her. Like, is this her intern or like an AI bot? These captions don't sound like her. Then her sister came out and she basically was like, not saying that her sister's in a cult, but saying like the reason why people are talking about this is because she's not performing. She's not also addressing any of these allegations. And so it's still up for interpretation, right? Some people think it's complete bullshit. And then other people are like, but wait, like, why is she with these people? Did she attend a class? Like, did she just go to a class and that's it? Is it deeper? We don't know. But that's why people were saying that she's in a cult. So even on their website, when you go to the frequently asked questions, they have a thing where it's like, are you a cult? And if you look at like cult education organizations and things like that, they describe certain elements that are hallmarks of a cult. And it's things like unreasonable fear about the outside world, such as impending catastrophe, check, evil conspiracies and persecutions, check. Former members often relate the same stories of abuse and reflect a similar pattern of grievances, check, check. Right? They had the May 5th doomsday. They were having to participate in these rituals because of the evil spirits. I don't know. It's up to you if you think it's a cult or not, but I tend to go off of like what people who have been there say after they leave. And a lot of them think it's a cult, so I'm inclined to believe them. I would love to know what you guys think. What do you think about the school itself? What do you think about the whole Miley Cyrus thing? I feel like that, I think maybe she took a few classes because she got to know those girls and then maybe nothing came of that. But then because those pictures existed, it kind of took on a life of its own. But I'm glad that that happened because there's now awareness about this group. And if it is still actively trying to get people involved and having them sign NDAs, I think it's important that people know what is actually happening so that they don't get caught up. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.